Well, well, well. And all right, guys. You know, not a power rankings video, but felt like end of the year video. I should probably play the intro song, so that's what we did. Um, I'm getting emotional thinking about this. Like, you know, it's already happened. It's over. The year's the year's finished. It was another great season, guys. Um, you know, Once again, the committee just continues to knock it out the park year in, year out. And I guess we'll start by recapping the championship. As some of you might know, I'm sure like Connor might not know. He might have not heard yet. But same with Liam. He might have no idea who ended up winning. But Caleb defeated Moss 130.42 to 121.6. So, all in all, we had a lot of close games in these playoffs. The thing that struck me about this game though, Moss he's got to be like giving his squad that speech that Dan Campbell gave, or like, post game interview when he's like, we may never get back here. That's kind of what Moss has got to be thinking, because this was kind of his shot, his opportunity. And as you guys can see, the game, it should be up on the screen. Packers defense -5, Texans 10 on Moss's bench. It's tough to see. It's tough to see. But it's all in the past now. Caleb is this year's champion. Moss second place. I guess on the bright side, it is Moss's highest finish ever. So there's that for him. But another good round of playoffs. But I think what we really want to get into, this is kind of what the people are waiting for with these end of the year videos. Let's get into the awards, okay? We will start with Rookie of the Year. Now, this one was tough because, like last year, Evans, I think he was Rookie of the Year. I believe he went like 8-6, and made playoffs. Ben was solid last year. This year, there happens to only be one rookie, but the committee was questioning, like, even though there's no competition for the award, can someone not qualify for it because they did so poorly? Because what they're saying, I get, like, this is what the committee, because they vote on this stuff. They weren't sure if Carter is eligible after going 5-9 with the second or third least points scored in the league, something like that. But they argued about it for days, and they came to the conclusion that Carter is Rookie of the Year. So congratulations to Carter. I think this is kind of like Carter had a terrible year, and then we're kind of giving him like a little dessert at the end to like make him feel better. That's sort of what this is, because I think it was kind of a shock to Carter's system what happened this year. But a league with the likes of ours, that tends to happen. So Rookie of the Year is Carter. Now on to the most desired award that there is in these awards, I guess you could say. Manager of the Year. Now, this was a contentious race. Start of the year, probably the first like 5-6 weeks, I was probably the favorite because I was doing unprecedented things. And then, the season unraveled a little bit. But, um, after a certain point, it kind of was just a race between Cole and Dan. And Dan, I really loved what Dan did in what was it, round two of the playoffs when he kind of laid it all out on the table and said if he wins and Cole loses, it's him, and if vice versa, then it should be Cole. They both ended up losing very close games, but the committee came to a conclusion. Manager of the year of this season, 2025, is Cole. Now, I will say, part of me, I feel like I'm responsible for this. I feel like I kind of gave birth to Cole. Um, because there was a point, like, I feel responsible for the turnaround in Cole's season because I talked him, everybody knows the story. I talked him off the fantasy ledge. He was pretty much going to end it all. And I reeled him back in. I gave him hope. I gave him confidence, told him to pick up Sean Tucker. And really, the season just completely changed for him after that. But yeah, I mean, Cole and Dan, it was like the same situation. They both like were dog shit at the start of the year and then found a way to just rattle off wins against some of the best teams. But the problem for Dan, I think the real killer was his Amon-Ra trade earlier in the year. It's like he shot himself in the foot and then recovered, but he was responsible for the wound. So that makes it kind of tough for Dan. But Cole just put his head down and, kept battling through. Although, mind you, I'm saying that he didn't really do that. I talked him into not doing the equivalent of like fantasy suicide. He was hanging off the ledge. He was going to jump off the bridge in like week 6. But yeah, so congrats to Cole, manager of the year. Um, in our final award, GM of the year. Now, this one I actually personally had a somewhat of an issue with, but I do think end of the day, I guess they got it right. Um, GM of the year is Caleb. Um, as I already mentioned, Dan pretty much lost his chance at manager of the year because of his Amon-Ra trade. Well, his Amon-Ra trade was to Caleb, and then Caleb also fleeced Ben for AJ Brown and Chase Brown. That one's pretty bad. That one like kind of flies under the radar. That one was a real fleece. And he also, Carter, his trade with Carter, I shouldn't at this point I don't feel like I even really need to bring that up or say it. Everybody knows how bad that one was, but yeah, I mean, end of the day, Caleb, he won a lot of trades. Mostly, I say I have an issue with this because I feel like were those trades really like Caleb being a great negotiator, or were those people just being complete retards in the moment? I kind of think it's the latter, but regardless, Caleb would not have won if he did not pull off really all 3 of those trades, but you could say any of them, but so they changed the season. So GM of the year is Caleb, and yeah, those are the awards. And pretty soon I'll release the league history record books, which it'll have the history of all these award winners and everything like that. But we're not quite finished with that yet. But I guess now before we go, we will do the division prediction, the predictions we did at the start of the year. I narrowed it down to a top 3 because there's some ties, so it's a lot of people. But prediction wise, to be honest, there's 8 divisions. As a league, we did terribly. But here are the standings. Not at number 1 is a two-way tie between me and Carter with three correct division winners, which is like crazy. That's number one because like nobody even went 50% on preseason division winners. Carter I think was the only one who, or no, Carter picked what? Eagles, Jags and Broncos. That's what it was. Those were his three. Mine were Panthers, Jags, and Eagles. So not great. Number two, four-way tie. Jake, Ben, Liam, and Caleb with two correct. I will say Jake was the only person to predict Seattle. So that was pretty good. Um, and then third is Ben with one. So, this season was not good for preseason predictions. I guess we can say that. But, there's that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. We'll have the annual off-season ballot for future changes, in a month, maybe two, kind of usually after like the Super Bowl, like March-ish. So I guess more than a month or two, but mid off season we'll more get into that. We don't want to do anything rash right after the season's over. We kind of let the off season settle in, and then we'll vote on some things, and we'll move on to next year. But I guess that's it, guys. Another great season in the books. I mean, what can you really say? This is the greatest league on earth, and I've always expected this, but especially now, going forward, everyone who's in here is expected to give their life for this league. So, with that said, commissioner out, high council out. If you need to reach them, you can do it by email, but the league offices are officially closed for the off season.